Welcome in, 2 o'clock, as we head through a pretty choppy, let's be honest, afternoon here. As far as the overall markets are concerned, that doesn't mean there aren't a lot of individual movers. As the guys were mentioning, they're flying around this afternoon. We'll touch on a few here as we get going into the final couple hours. Frank Caberna coming up as well this afternoon. We'll get his take on not only what happened last week, but heading towards this non-farm payrolls print coming up on Friday. Obviously going to be very important for the overall state, not only of the economy, but the market itself. Yeah, there you go. That's the S&P 500 as we head into the final couple of hours of the day here. We are seeing a little bit of an improvement as far as big tech is concerned. Microsoft positive 0.36. Apple still chopping around. NVIDIA a little bit better off the lows anyways. Still down about 0.25%. Google still notably weak. Amazon notably weak. Tesla has been notably weak all day long. Meta, on the other hand, offsetting nicely, 1.2% to the upside. Some of the software names in general doing pretty good. Cisco, Adobe, namely, are both higher. Oracle was higher. It's given it back. Now down 0.25% as well. Broadcom down here. AMD, the standout heading into earnings, up 2.25% on a day when the market otherwise is a whole lot of red on this board anyways. Some of the payment names were higher earlier. Visa still holding on to a slight gain there, 0.43. MasterCard dead flat. Everything else pretty red. Oil included. Energy names right across the board lagging this afternoon. There's Meta, 1.05% to the upside again on a day when the S&P 500 down 0.27 at 2 o'clock in the afternoon here. The NASDAQ down 0.16. Meta holding on to a really nice gain here of a full percent. So relative strength coming into play. We were discussing it if you joined us first off this morning. Make sure you're doing that every single day. We're on at 8:30, guys. We get you set and ready for the open every single day. First 30 minutes or so, we get a broader look at what's happening for the day as far as what's moving in the pre-market. And then we really dig in from about 9 o'clock to 9:30 into the watch list. Names we're going to be definitely active in throughout the day once the market's open at 9:30. Yeah, Meta top of the list on the rundown there. We were discussing some AI, retention measures is the way that Mr. Zuckerberg framed it in an effort to keep people on their platforms longer, not only get them there, but keep them there once they are there. They've obviously been struggling to do that on Threads so far. They had massive signups right across the board as soon as it was launched, with everyone from Instagram essentially just grandfathered in. If you had an Instagram account, hey, guess what? You have a Threads account as well. But here's Meta, guys, holding on to a nice gain on a day when the market is dead sideways.
It is, and welcome back. Before we get to Meta, I have to very quickly discuss something because Upstart's right at the 70 level, so I have to explain what I'm doing with the firm here. So the Upstart double top at 70. And Affirm is up 1%. It actually had a bad morning, and then it's starting to break out. Now, I want to be long sympathy Affirm into an Upstart break. So if Upstart takes 70, I'm looking for a place to add. And if you remember this morning or last night, we were talking about this 1960 breakout level. It's at that price right now. It already broke it. So the local high is just underneath 1970. I took the dip back into this 35, and I'm only adding if 70 breaks on Upstart and we take out the top. I want to add to Affirm. So that's just getting that plan out of the way. It's kind of half the plan what it was for Affirm anyways, and now Upstart feels like it's dragging the stock to the upside as well. So if I had one trade and it kind of, sometimes you should always just go right back to the well. I decided I wanted to trade some of those runners a little bit more than Meta, and it's fine. I ended up trying to grab that long when it got back above that 317 half line that we were pointing out in the pre-market show. And I got in, took my stop out. I would have never have held all the way down to 316. So I'm always going to take that little 50 cent hit in there and then look for another trade. I found other longs instead of this, and it sucks. But yeah, Meta right back through that 318. If I take it on the way up and do that same stop, welcome to a $6 move. I don't know if I hold it the entire way through that. Probably not. I'm probably getting trailed out somewhere in here because that's how I roll. But yeah, sometimes you just want to stick with it. I had made a decision that it was going to be some of these runners today in the big cap tech. I liked AMD the most, and probably Meta was a number 2. And with Tupperware and Affirm and AI and Palantir and Nikola and all that stuff, there was way too many of them out there providing what I thought were better opportunities. Turns out Meta was hella good. And the long was right at the level I liked. It was just I needed to stick with it when it reclaimed that price level. So the key level was a great rejection at the open for short, and then it was a great long above that same price. Good look for Meta here, but it still has to contend with 326. That's up here. So if we see 326 today, if it had gone past 24 and above 25, I'd probably be short into that 26 level. It just never quite got there. But if we see it this afternoon, I'm short in front of 26.
Yeah, I think like a fail break of 26 this afternoon makes a lot of sense, or breaking out from 26 tomorrow makes a lot of sense. I only wanted to play one level on Meta today. That was if it was super weak. I wanted to try to get long at 310. It didn't come in. I said I wouldn't play it if that didn't come in, and I'll pat myself on the back for trying not to take any trades on this move up that probably was a little bit choppy, although it seems like there are quite a few spots that you could have got in on this one. But yeah, no trades for me on Meta. Great move. We'll be definitely looking at that 326 tomorrow. But yeah, nothing really left today, unless we can get all the way up there and potentially fail break that.
There we go. We'll move along. Sharif has joined. It was a interesting, it's like those, when you're on a Zoom call or something and somebody new comes and it says, pops up, Sharif has joined the call. Uber was on the board this morning after earnings in the pre-market. We get above 52 right out of the gate, and then it was, as soon as the report came out, it was nothing but downside all morning long. As soon as the market opened, we got more downside, trying to hold 46 right now. I mean, it was there or thereabouts, 9.2 versus 9.32. Yeah, a slight miss, but overall, numbers actually not bad for Uber.
Yeah, it was only Uber Freight that really hurt them. They cited some headwinds there with respect to shipping volume as well as shipping costs as we come off the pandemic highs. On the good side of things, they did increase their drivers by 33%. Their ride hailing was up 21% year over year, so a mixed bag, Brendo.
Yeah, not bad for Uber. I saw Lyft a little bit worse off today, surprisingly, following Uber earnings.
So we talked about this one, and again, I didn't really think it was that bad in terms of the report, but we had talked about the concern with this as terms of where it was. And I'll get to the dip buys in here. They were okay, they weren't great, but 52 on the weekly was that lower high for Uber. And when we were kind of giving thoughts on the chart here, it felt as if it had to be perfect to get it through there. But if it could have gone through 52 at the open, there was a lot of runway to the upside. I think it would have to have been a perfect report and maybe not just good. It had to be great, and that's not what you got here. It doesn't even matter the why. It's just it could not get through that level. Once the stock opened up, it was already beneath. You had gapped above it. But remember, there's a big difference between the pre-market and the open market. It was already breaking down, failing 52 before we even had a shot at the open. So my plan of action would have been to try to fade the 52. If it's a breakout above that price, go long and hold to 52. You never got a chance to trade off that level because by the time you got to 9:30, it was already. Where did we open? Let me just look back here at 9:30. That's, oh my God, that's this candle. You were already at like 40, through 49. It was just so far gone by that point that I was only looking for the dip buy. There was nothing else to do, like there was no 50 break available. There certainly wasn't the short off 52 unless you wanted to risk $4, which is insane. So all that was left was, okay, well, where's some support as it was dropping? The first thing I found was it bounced off 46.5. I had a 47 long, was able to get out 50s and then evens. I tried the reload, and it just kept falling. So I tried I held on to some and stopped out flat. I tried this dip here off the low of the day, and it could not hold up at 46.5. Thankfully, I stopped trying to go long at that point, and it's still no good. Like, it's just trending to the downside. It's now got a triple bottom off 46 even. So the even dollar seems like it's maybe the most stable level so far. That's maybe where you work off of this afternoon. This is probably the best it's looked in terms of finding support the entire morning. So the moral of the story is when you've gone up this far and run that far into earnings, you look at the daily and the weekly, it tells the story. It needed to be perfect. You're talking about a lower high that's from middle of 2021 that Uber rejected in the pre-market today. That's a hard thing to come back from. And that's why we were cautious with where we thought Uber was going to be able to go regardless of the report today. Just wish I could have found a short in the stock. It never set up, so I didn't trade it. And that's how it has to be. You can be green on a stock and you can still be disappointed because you see all the movement on it. And it's like, well, if everywhere that I was thinking, like where I'm getting out at 48, you could be shorting the pop. That's the other way to think about it. If you were just shorting the pops here, you were pretty much good to go. Like every single pop was free money to short, and I was really thinking about the bounce play. So you can be green, but you can be unhappy with the trade anyways.
Yeah, my idea on Uber today was either take the 50 breakdown, which you couldn't have gotten unless you were willing to take that pre-market. And even then, you would have had to hold it all the way back up to 50-40, or any kind of fail break off the open. So I wanted, 50.5. I wanted 51. None of that came in. We ended up opening at 48.70, and that was it. What I wouldn't mind potentially tomorrow would be this 47 kind of breaking out, and maybe we kind of redo some of this move back to the upside, maybe get it into 48, 49. I mean, Uber's still been strong. It was still an okay earnings, but got pretty smoked on this one. And just to update, I did just get long upstart at that 70 break. It seems to be working for now, but we'll see. I want dollars out of this one. I'm not trying to get the 15 cents or whatever that is on this breakout. So let's see if upstart can keep going.
End of the day yesterday, it was strange. We were just talking about volatility or lack thereof in this case for the overall market. We were discussing Palantir this morning as well, a couple of days in a row to the upside. Palantir kind of looking like the market right now, grinding back to session highs anyways. Overall, trying to get back to the upside. I mean, a very positive note this morning, pointing to recent upgrades, pointing to yet another DoD contract going through to Palantir, and even going as far as calling them a pure AI play for PLTR.
Or as Dan Ives would have you think, the Lionel Messi of the AI world, or so he says. Yeah, interesting look today. They get a new contract. This contract apparently is supposed to homogenize the difference between the government side of the spectrum with the commercial side. Looks like they're hired for the logistical purpose of doing that, so we'll see how that works out.
We got that note this morning, and Sean will be very happy to know that Palantir didn't sell off. It seems like every time there's a government contract, it's just a negative day for PLTR, but not the case. Nice move here, 0.8. Yesterday, guys, ends up being $20, ends up being a bit of a problem at 2 times anyways. Throughout the day, we did get above it today, but still struggling here at 20.
Yeah, we got above 20 a couple times today. Those were very interesting. So sometimes the chart's going to look a heck of a lot better than it really is, because you'd look at this and be like, yeah, of course Neil's up on Palantir, not slightly down. But you have to put everything into context. Like the first short off of the 20 level was 99s. It got to 90s. I was still in a bunch. And then this wick right here, it broke 20. My stop triggered and filled 4s. So that's not just a stop short. Like if it was only out at 99 and if it, out of my 99s at 04s, that's not the end of the world. You know, so there's going to be some slippage. But I also reversed it. So it's like I got out of a 99 short, reverse long at 04. It's hard to see. There's like one red one in there. I'm instantly stopped out underneath 20 again. So I just lost 5 cents on the short. Then I lost 5 cents on the long, which doesn't seem like a lot, but when you're scalping a stock, it's a bit frustrating. So I jam back into the short because it's a wick level, and I get the short into VWAP. So it looks a lot better than it really is. I was doing okay at that point. I hold some for the break of VWAP, stop out at 20 again. Then look when I don't short 20. It's gold again to VWAP when I'm not taking it. It then does this, wicks over 20 even, puts in a higher low, and at this point I'm like, if it breaks the top, that's it. We're going in here. I kind of got too aggressive with this trade, as you're going to obviously be able to see. I was long above 20. I added when it made the fresh high, probably a little aggressive there. I thought we're for sure breaking the quarters and we're going to have one of those move to 21 types of days. That didn't happen. So there was immediately sellers at 20. I take some out there. There's sellers at 15. I get more out. I decide I'm just going to, at this point, let's just stop it out because if it breaks 05, it's probably going to 20 even. I thought that was a good call. But a couple of minutes later, I'm like, oh, it's going to bounce off 20 again. And when it did, I went long another time. So I made the call here that it didn't seem strong enough. I should not be holding on to it, only to 5 minutes later get right back in. And were not for that, I'd still be up on the stock. But it's that last little hit, and now we're going to be above 20 again. So I still like the long up here. It's a matter of getting into it in a reasonable way. And I think that's going to be a consolidation off the 20 level. Forget about punching highs. Just look for a consolidation long. That's been much better on here, but I want it above that 20 level. While we're doing that, I mean, you have AI. I've been in and out of AI several times. I didn't really hold on to it the whole time. Like I was in, I added to it, I scalped a bunch out, I got flat, then I got back in, I scalped some out, I'm still in the position, but not as big as when we're adding over here. I have an offer in front of 45s, it's starting to go. And Upstart, when it took that 70, I probably should have taken Upstart because I added to my Affirm when it took the high of the day, and now it's just kind of chilling here. So my average price is now 57, and I'm going to stop it out under 50. This was a sympathy play for Upstart, and it's on a big level itself, but it's not really churning the way Upstart is.
Yeah, I am long that AI at 44 still, and it is finally starting to go. As far as Palantir is concerned, I tried the 20 level once. I tried it again a second time. I almost, blame you and Prad for being in this one at the same time, and I was like, Palantir's going, not without me. So I punched in.
That's fair.
Punched out, punched in again, punched out again. Palantir is by far my worst stock on the day. This initial break was quite nasty the way that they filled it and then kind of rug pulled it. But we're still. I'm still fine today despite this all this happening. The interesting thing that I was noticing after I took the second trade was that 2020 was the high after hours yesterday. And I'm going long twice ahead of the after hours high. Probably should have just waited for that 2020 to break. Maybe that's what's breaking tomorrow and gives you the breakout that we're looking for. But
or
do it today.
That's what's breaking now.
Yeah, I'm done with Palantir today.
Are you though?
Yes, no more.
So
I don't care what happens. I don't care.
In all fairness, it is sort of a thing. Like the whole time while Palantir is making these moves, I'm like talking about what I see and probably overtrading it a little bit myself. So I can own that one. Like I don't think Max was that focused on it. And it could have been, the thing about it, I'm mad about it because it could have been really good. If I had just done the whole, I'm just scalping this move and let the Spidey sense do the rest. I didn't have to add to it here. Like the add should have been at 2020, not at 2010. Like that's what you're getting at. If I only go long 20 and don't add here and then sniff out that little bit there to get out for profit on a trail, like that's perfect. I don't add, the breakout gives me the 15 cents, I scalp at 10, then I hold the last quarter for essentially break even or just above. Like that's a great trade. But instead, I add to it up there and then I double back in. Like it's the over trading. No need for that and no need for that. Keep it simple is the way to go when it comes to these. Here comes another one that, NCLH. You're gonna love this one.
I was just checking from their last earnings report. This thing was up almost 70%.
Wow.
Before it reported this morning. And that's just in one quarter, obviously. And then we get a 13% retracement here today. This was the spike low on the report itself this morning. We get down to 19, ends up holding here midday as support. So maybe we get a move here into the close for NCLH overall. I mean, it was about the forecast. Numbers not bad right across the board, but Q3 forecast missing.
Yeah, they're saying that the energy prices and especially fuel is hurting their margins. And this is after we heard RCL report a few weeks ago and said their margins were great. They were able to sell more alcohol, more food, more et cetera to their passengers. So not the same look here on NCLH.
Going to need some participation, I feel. Volume not the greatest here, guys, midday.
For the that SSR bounced it down 10%. But here's what I will tell you. So this will be my worst stock, but it's a quarter of what Xpeng made yesterday, despite the fact that I technically stopped out 4 times on this. I took the breakout through 20 when it wicked the pre-market low and broke back out 20. I took that long and was like insta stop back out under support. So that's 1 L. I then had this wick underneath 19. I grabbed it back up above 19, was getting filled in front of 20, and then that stopped back out. I reloaded it again off 19. That stopped out underneath. It then made a bottom that I did not see coming at 1837 at that point. Once it's under 50, I'm like, okay, well, let's just wait for $18 and see what happens. It never got there, runs all the way back up. This was the bounce you're looking for. If we're claiming 1850, that's your real SSR bounce. And you could have got in here when it was consolidating. I did not. I waited for it to come back to 19, was looking pretty good in the VWAP. That was a good win. Then I loaded back into it to stop out again. but you've got to have proper risk to reward. That's what it's all about. It's not about whether you win or you lose. It's about the ratio of your wins to your losses and making sure that you have yourself an out. You're not going to, what you don't see is me fighting it there or really fighting it there. It's in, it's out, it's in, it's out. It works, in, it's out. That's the way I want to do it when you're going counter trend, because the trend is not with you. You're just looking for it to work right away. And for anyone that doesn't remember what this looked like yesterday, when it works, this is what you're looking at. This is the original wick on XPeng under 20. It reclaimed 20, it held 20, it held 20, it held 20. So as long as you were willing to stop it out after that initial hold underneath the $20 level, it was gold. It gave you a 75, it gave you a 70, it eventually closed at like 92. Those are big wins that you can have with a relatively tight stop. But the flip side of that is if you are making that kind of a trade, you have got to be willing to take the L's when they are there for you, because it's a counter trend trade. You can't be sitting there averaging it like it's going to bounce somewhere, it's going to bounce somewhere. That's not the nature of that kind of trade. So you take the outs when they're there and go. Why am I not getting an offer? I'm sitting there on C3AI at a really terrible and stupid price. It's like, I realized why I wasn't getting filled. I was on the other side of 75. Like, there's no point offering like 77 when it won't break 75. You should just, okay, never mind. I just canceled 77 and now I'm gonna get 77. Probably. That was weird. Like, I just canceled 77 to take 75 and then it broke 75. I should just put a 75 in and take it, which I'm gonna do now. So let's get that fill on C3AI. I will ring the register, but I'm not happy with, when I had more shares, I stopped them out at break even 44, then jumped back in the trade. So always have yourself an out if you're chasing an SSR bounce. NCLH was a nasty miss, but it did ultimately make that bounce. I just feel like the trade didn't set up as well as it did on XPeng yesterday.
I really swore that I had an execution on NCLH today, somewhere around 19, but apparently there are none. I didn't realize that I hadn't traded this name today. I have like 10 on my blotter, which is actually kind of rare for me. So lots of names traded. I thought I tried this around 19. I guess I was thinking of trying it and just didn't get the fill maybe or something. And I was highlighting that 1860 level on the daily chart as a potential spot that we could bounce earlier on in the pre-market, and that is where we bounced from. So I should have been paying a little more attention to it because once we get back above 1860, that's where it holds and then gives you that nice move up. Obviously, you know, I was trading other things, made money on other stuff, so that's fine. But that's a pretty solid, almost dollar move off that bottom there. And I'm sure it gave you all of the indications to get in if you were watching the tape. But yeah, pretty nasty move to the downside. I really thought 19 was going to hold right here, and that would have been, you know, the low of day. We'd be trading at 20 by now. AI has just taken out the high again, and so is Upstart. Upstart now above $71. I'm waiting to take a fill at 71.25 here. These squeeze names are really starting to go. I might actually cancel that profit taker there. So yeah, let's see where this goes.
All right, we'll quickly wrap up here with some of the Chinese EV names. Nothing major as far as news to consider this morning. Here's NIO now actually down 3%. It was more than that out of the gate, all the way down to 1450 ended up holding. We almost got back to positive, notably. Anyway, Li Auto tops the list for the, 3 or 4 months in a row here as far as deliveries are concerned. NIO comes in number 2, and then XPeng as well. I mean, all of them post numbers that are double-digit % gains over the prior year. I think Lee was actually 200% or something like that as far as delivery. So impressive, nevertheless, for all 3 of these. But here we are down today.
Yeah, but Lee is still up 3 2/3% on the day, Brendel. The only one of the 3 that is up on the day. Here are the numbers. 34,000 vehicles delivered, like you said, 227% year over year. And that's a beat from the previous quarter, which they had 32,500 vehicles. Like you said, NIO coming second with 20,400 vehicles. Yeah.
Randy approves of the deliveries, guys.
You know what's interesting? XPeng could have been just as good today. Today as it was yesterday, but it was just maybe a different level off the open, and then it settled right back into the 20 level. It broke down really early in the pre-market. It showed you a 19. I think it's 68 is the low, and then a higher low right at 930. You might not be getting that. I mean, if you're looking at this stock and only trading this stock, maybe you get that double bottom. chances are maybe that wasn't the first place you're looking today. Once I zoom back in, I can show you it puts in this higher low, wicks underneath 20 to 1995. Now, once that happens, look what happens. It's now holding 20 again. It gives you some decent bounces. This one into 60, this one into 50. Maybe too late now. I think there's stronger stocks, the Chinese ADR in the afternoon when it's not moving. Maybe you don't bet that it's going to. Yesterday was the bigger day. But yes, if you just stuck with this off the 20 level for some bounce plays, it showed you support at that price, which indicated there were buyers in front of 20. You got the same thing. You just had to weather the storm at 9:30, or maybe not trade it until, if you traded it after 9:45, going long off the 20 level was essentially, I'd say like 70% as good as it was yesterday. Maybe at least 50% as good as yesterday. You didn't get the late day rally into 90, but you got the move into that 70 level, and you got the move again into 50. That's gold if you're risking 5 cents to be able to get anywhere from 25 to 60 pennies worth of a win. I didn't trade NEO. I didn't trade XPeng. You guys know the other names we're looking at. After we talk about this, we'll get a chance to maybe go over Nikola as well. That was the EV. There was another EV name that we thought was a little bit better for the day trade.
Yeah, for sure. NEO, I was talking pre-market about this 1475, 1480 kind of level and thinking it would be a bit of an over-under level. Apparently, it's just where this stock is happy because, we're currently there. We tried to break it off the open. It gave you a decent trade down to those 40s or whatever. That's not a bad trade on NEO getting 30 cents, but I kind of figured we'd be 50, 60, 70 cents below there if you got the breakdown today, but recovers it, chops around that level all day, and then that's where we're sitting right now. So apparently NEO very, very happy to trade at 1475. Maybe a level to watch going forward. I don't really necessarily trade around levels that stocks are particularly happy at. The one EV, I guess I did trade Tesla a bit, but the only EV I really traded was that Nikola, which I've been in all day, and I'm just waiting for something to happen on this one.
It's happening.
It's happening?
I don't know. I want it to happen.
I got in 302, I guess, and a few bad outs, but we're just holding a quarter of the position, waiting for that to either break out from this 330 level, and 335 was a spot in the pre-market that it had a bunch of size that got filled. So I'm wondering if that's the breakout level going forward. Obviously, 350 is the real breakout level.
I agree with you there. To come back to Nikola, you hear Max be like, yeah, I got some bad outs there on Nikola. I'm like, do you really? Do you really? You have a bad out on Nikola? I got back into it, but still, I was almost guilty of the bottom wick on Nikola today. Pretty much everything was made on the original break in the pre-market. Early bird gets the worm. $3 broke, and it broke at 8:30. We had just got on air this morning, and the $3 level broke pretty much instantly. I was scalping out. I kind of told you that's a strategy for me. I want to take that profit in the pre-market. It got to 350 and reversed. I got a trail out here at 335. I then did that thing you do where I'm going to hold on to 10% because I want to see what happens if it can bounce off 3. At the open, it ran stops. Now I'm going to have a stop in that situation because I don't want it to halt down on me. So I did stop out there. I jumped right back in the trade. It got to 325. I got back in again when it bounced off 3, and we're still sitting in Nikola. And I see no reason to get out because if it takes out the high, I'm not even offering, but if it gets to 350, I will offer out in front of it. And then 350 is its own break. So Nikola, unless it gets out of this quarter range, you might see it in the blotter for the entirety of the afternoon show. But let's head back on to the desk to wrap this up.
Rundown brought to you by Trade Ideas, real-time scanning and alerting used on the desk by everyone you see on the show. See what's moving in the moment. Check out the QR code, bottom right corner of the screen, guys. Take advantage of this if you haven't. Great deal, 20% off. TraderTV20. Shout out to our friends over at Trade Ideas.
There you go, Trade Ideas. We love it. I use it all the time. Heck, that's what I show. When I show you guys the weekly charts, that's what it's all about. So I want to go back to Palantir for a quick second here because it's now getting back above that $20 level again. I just want to show you guys why I've liked this. why we like it so much. Like, look at the weekly chart. Like, after it made this perfect dip into 14, still have that line drawn, dip by, breakout. Then you look at what's going on if it can hold 20. 20 was a breakdown level on Palantir. So holding above 20, like buyers back above a previous resistance level, and where's your next, you're talking 26, you're talking 28. It's hard not to like the long above, which is tricky because that's basically, I'm showing you like swing setups and then wanting these levels to hold as a day trader. It's great when they do and you get a runner. This doesn't always happen as a day trader the way you want it to. So now it's starting to go. The 2020, it might just be a 2020 break because that's the actual high in the aftermarket. Should have respected that before. I was just trying to get a dip buy. I can cancel that. I don't think it's going to happen. It was just failing 2010, like this little red candle here. So I snuck a bit in front of 20 just in case it did one of those little dips that I can get picked up on. Didn't happen. I'll cancel that order and look for a 2020 breakout on Palantir. But I think the long is on here for PLTR. You're through that 20. You're holding it pretty nicely. I can go over a firm again. Let me just go to the daily chart. That was just a question in the chat. More Gillespie, fine. Okay, that's an interesting name. Maybe I'm pronouncing that wrong. I don't get it. But yeah, I can go over it, no problem. So this is 1960 on the daily. I like this breakout at this level. It also happened to kind of fail that break, 1960, come back under to the local high and start holding it. So I got the dip. I didn't add here because I was already in underneath. Then when it reclaimed that 60 level, as Upstart was going kind of in sympathy, I added above, and now I'm going to stop out underneath the 50. It's probably still long up here, but I'm not seeing the volume or the follow-through that I am here that Upstart is doing. But if it breaks 80s, so 1980s, I'm taking some out there. I'll take some out in front of 20 even. And if it breaks 20, I'm not sure. I'm probably need to like the volume to take a 20 break on this. I'll hold through a 20 break, but the volume isn't really big enough right now to make a decision on whether I'd want that 20 break. I'd say right now it's too low for me to want to grab that. And just to go over the futures, if you want to know what the market is doing, why are we looking at small cap names that are running and giving you the gains and the opportunities to get the wins? Because this is what the NASDAQ is doing. So if you bought the dip at the open, great. You're sitting in some longs and you're fine. If you didn't, then what are you going to do with 10, 20 handle ranges? Not a lot. We're at the top end of the range. It's tricky to want to grab longs in here. There might be some shorts that could set up on some of the big cap tech names that are worthy of looking at. AMD certainly is super strong. It can't seem to get past 118. Yes, I like the 115 long in AMD, and yes, the original long was okay. I stopped it out. It was a keystroke error. I got in and out flat. And then I had this dip. That's the worst out of the day. This is the worst out. Like, forget about any of this. Is the worst out of the day. I did have it back above 115 on AMD. I gave it down to the 80 level. I'm like, yeah, tight stops this time of the day. If it's going to trend, I'll be able to grab the 15s again. I wasn't able to grab the 15s again, long story short. The rest is all history. It's always right when it stops people out that it goes. That said, that's my style of trade. Like, I will more than likely take a bunch of paper cuts to try to get the home run than get really stubborn about it. But when you're taking that paper cut, the point is that you're going to be more aggressive getting back into the next setup for it, which I never was. Like, I took it, I was in this only twice because that's a keystroke error. When off that level, I should have been at least 3 times. Like, I could have had a long back in here. I certainly could have had this breakout of the local high. Like, those are 2 trades that I should have had on AMD if I liked the long above 115.
Yeah, the kind of opening range breakout. I was intending to punch more because you got filled on that weird one at the high there.
Yeah.
So I didn't want to put in an edge A or any kind of stop. I guess I could have put a script stop in, and it wouldn't have filled if somebody did some weird stuff to it. But I don't know. I was just going to punch, but then I think I was trading Palantir or something at the time. Didn't do it, and ended up not adding there. I ended up adding on 116 on AMD, but yeah, this trade could have been really, really something if I was committed down at the bottom and was able to size in everything that I wanted to there. But still super strong. Earnings tonight, right?
I just realized, it is earnings tonight.
Yeah.
But I'm looking back and I'm like, oh, I should have added this place in AMD. I'm like, you know what, the answer, that's actually not true because I didn't remember that this is the reason why. The reason that I didn't add that other time in AMD is because the long setup in NVIDIA, it's set up. So when I got stopped out of AMD, right after that, as AMD started to go, I spotted NVIDIA getting back above what I had as a resistance line. So I took the long and then I added to it at 465. Like that's, I don't want to give you guys the wrong idea. Like I did grab that NVIDIA long. I didn't hold on to that long enough because I thought it would dump. I thought we were going to fail off the close price. So this is a 3-minute chart. When it started to slow down here, over under at 67, I trailed it out underneath 67 because I thought we're not going to be able to go red to green. It was right at the close price that it started to do that. So I grabbed the win on it. But it was still a good trade. It just went all the way to 69. It's not nearly as strong as AMD right now. If this market decides to go red, Palantir broke the high of the day. I'm now into that. But if we decide to go red, NVIDIA underneath VWAP and back under that 64 could be a bit of a short. Just want to make sure we talked about that because, hey, we don't always talk about the big tech names enough on a day like today. So there's Palantir through yesterday's high. Sorry, the aftermarket high, not yesterday's, the aftermarket high at 20. I'm long at 21. This will be a relatively tight stop because it either works right away or I'm getting out because the last time it wicked, it went all the way to VWAP. So I don't want to have that kind of slippage on. It either holds this 2020 or I'm going dip buy hunting because the dip buys have been better than the breakouts. So very tight stops in the breakouts, and then we'll try to work into something else if it does not hold us. But I want long above 20. Not really thinking about the short, and there it goes. It always does this, Palantir. I hate your guts. Palantir's hilarious. It's hilarious. I got partially filled there.
Those, I don't know about that.
Well, Palantir, it's like just 3-4 cents every single time.
Sometimes it gives you those incredible moves, though. So it's like,
well, the last one was like instantly 15 cents.
Yeah,
Instead of taking it, instead of just taking like this to here, I added to it at 10. So that's the nature of the game. Like if you take these breakouts, that's how they go. I don't think you want to hold on to a breakout all the way back. It's pretty reckless. But if it either works right away, starts getting up to like 30s, you're taking it out, and you're scalping 5, 10, 15 cents, that's what you're trying to do there with a 21 long, and then you just get right out underneath at 17. Like that's not the end of the world. You just want to see it work right away. But I think it's going to be more about the consolidation long. For Palantir, maybe doing some scalping off that. If we bounce off 20, we go for it again. What else do we have here? There was something else I wanted to get to. It'll come to me in a second. Because Palantir happened, I had a thought in my head, and then Palantir broke that level, and I got triggered into the long, and now I do not remember what I was going to talk about, but it was a different stock, and it was one that we had not mentioned yet. It'll come to me soon.
probably wasn't Tesla, which
No.
currently has a double bottom just above 260, and the market is still kind of at highs, or kind of playing with the highs, really hasn't done anything today. I wonder if a fail break of 260 brings you back into 262. Maybe you get VWAP on Tesla today. Really no bounce in this name. I guess you get a little bounce off that 261.5, which is a level for me. So maybe should have had that one actually. Double bottom 261.50 gets you to 264. But I think, in the next half hour, 45 minutes, we get down to that 260 price, do a tiny bit of volume below it, and then stop everybody out who tried to short low of day. Sounds like a potentially good trade for me. AI, I don't know if I mentioned that I stopped out of AI. I think that might have been a little bit too soon.
What?
But I was just kind of done with it. It tried at that 45 level. It filled a bunch of size on the offer at 44.88, I think it was, and then instantly kind of fails down right into the 50 period, breaks 44.50, which it was struggling with 44.45 for a long time. So I just bailed out of it. Probably should have just, break even, or even 44.10 or whatever that is, 44.25, instead of bailing out. But I don't know. Sometimes it's hard to hold them when they're not just going straight up.
It's still above 44.
Yeah.
It's holding the trend. It depends on how.
is.
See, that's the thing. I still like it. I took some out at 75, and then I'm going to hold for a 45 break. I remember what it was. It was Uber. Because Uber, holding that 46, I'm like, okay, well, I know I like 46, but let's see a lower high that we can work off of. Well, that just happened. You got to zoom in, otherwise this chart's ridiculous. So it was holding triple bottom at 46. That was good for 30 minutes. It breaks back out, gets to 46.50, does this candle, like, oh, what's the first thing we do? Starts buying back up off this candle. Now, I tried to just grab something here at 35, but I want the long, if I can get it, off of this higher low. Otherwise, you just look for a consolidation, grab some shares in the next consolidation. I'm thinking it's going to be here, or maybe it just breaks out this top. I want the long into VWAP on Uber. Nick Dubs just put a super chat in there. Havana Woody, there we go, GoEV. I'll check that one out in a second. I like that stock sometimes. Hey guys, what are your thoughts on Crowd for a swing? I know it's not your specialty, but it looks like it's an interesting breakout. Plus, ANET just had a big move. ANET did have a big move. I heard Pratt talking all about that. I didn't really look at it today. CrowdStrike, I'm usually more of a Palo Alto in terms of like the long term, but these guys they're always expensive, but they just seem to want to continue to go. Wow, this is it's having a great day today, in sympathy probably to that ANET. I like the breakout. I'm assuming, you're just taking this long. I got to look at a weekly chart, sorry. I look at these dailies, and they're not always good enough for me. I just want to be able to go back and see pretty cleanly what the bigger levels are. So so you're breaking out here off of like 60, call it like 63. There's some chop, but that's like $73, that local high. And then you got 200 above there. That looks really good. You could make an argument that the long breaking 73, like breaking this area has more on the weekly, has more room to 200 than this one currently. But getting in there, it's just a question of where you want to stop it. And I'm not a swing trading expert. Like the 73 long, you can stop out underneath the break that you're making right now, and then you take that into 200. I don't know where you're stopping this one out. Maybe at the 50 period, but that's 10%. I don't know if you want like 10% worth of risk. That's not on a stock like this. Maybe you want to do that. There's room to 200. That's not that bad. So I like the breakout locally. I think Crowd should be a name that we're looking at in the next couple of days. I just want to go back to the futures for a second to line up a plan of action here. If we get to 15.9 on the NASDAQ today, I will be looking for something to short. It's just I'm going to scan every single big tech name that I think can be a short up there, and I'm going to try and go for something. I don't know what it's going to be at this moment. It might be AMD. It might be NVIDIA. It might be Microsoft. But we see 15.9. How many times are you going to run back from that level without taking it? Oh, I just got into Uber. But we're about 60 handles away, but you want to be prepared. If the market goes green and starts screaming into that level, I do want to be fading that top if we get there.
That makes a lot of sense. I hadn't considered. I was wondering if AMD would be a short at some point, but I think it's just probably, once these names kind of start trending on their earnings day, I feel like they just don't die. So now that we're sitting at highs on AMD, like, could 118 be a fail break that you look at to try to get it back into 117? And maybe you get mean reversion into VWAP in the last hour of the day with people trying to take profits into earnings. I feel like I've seen that before on Tesla when it's trended up all day and then finally gives it up and goes all the way back to VWAP right before its earnings. But maybe that's something that I would look at. Obviously, shorting the stronger stocks is not always the best idea, but they've gone the furthest. So there's the risk reward potential there. I've been watching. I've been watching Carvana as well, which I traded several times today. Had a great trade here, didn't hang on to it after this flush. This was a real candle up to 47.60, flushes all the way back into 46.60, so I bailed out of it, and then I kind of FOMO'd a bunch of times into it and gave up all the profit that I had on the one good trade that I should have held. I was going to take the 50 break, but now that we've dipped that far, I'm not going to do that anymore. But great move on Carvana. Maybe they give us 50 tomorrow morning, which would be pretty potentially awesome. But huge move on this one. And that daily breakout setup that I was talking about breaks out that 46.30, never looks back all day, makes almost $50 high. So I guess, why don't I just hold it? That's kind of my thing. And I didn't just hold it today. We'll remember that for tomorrow. If we're breaking out 50, which is a key psychological level, as well as basically today's high tomorrow, I will be hitting that one quite a bit harder than this 46.30, and with a good amount of conviction to try to get, into, that like 57, 58 level potentially if I mean, that's the next stop on the daily. There's really nothing between 50 and that 57. I got to go to like a 60-minute chart maybe if it'll load up for me. That looks like it's going to crash, so never mind. But just trust, once we finally broke 50 on day 2 after that earnings report, it just went straight down. So.
Also, Carvana, still 47% short float.
Yeah.
That's worth digging into, and that's the reason why you hunt for those longs. That was a good breakout trade. I don't know why I wasn't looking at Carvana today. I wish I was, but everybody is going to be happy that they're here. You're not going to want to miss. Every time Frank is on, he drops absolutely bombs worth of knowledge. So we're happy to have Frank Cabrera. Let's go to the desk with Brendo.
Yeah, going to be a busy week as far as employment data to come for the U.S. We get not 1, not 2, but 3 different looks as far as that is concerned. We'll touch on that. Great to see you, by the way. As always, welcome back. Frank, if anyone has noticed, has a new title. Congratulations, my friend.
And now I'm embarrassed. I didn't want to. Actually, the title change was like a couple months ago, and I was like, I don't want to even bring this up because I don't want the attention.
Too late.
With that, let's move right past it and get right into what's been already a pretty busy week for interest rate and dollars. I know that the stock fans out there are maybe a little bit bored by a lot of sideways action, Brendan, but huge moves across interest rates and Forex. And we'll probably get some more with those data points that you're speaking to in the near future. If you want to kick it off in Aussie or yen or where you want to go, my friend.
Yeah, I mean, we if you rewind the clock, going back a couple of months here, we sat, here and talked a lot about the weakness in a lot of these versus, what was happening with the US dollar. But what a difference a few weeks makes here. The US dollar itself back to the upside. Tell us what's going on here as far as the Australian bank coming out holding, surprising everyone, holding no interest rate whatsoever. Bank of Japan the same. We got that headline last week when you were with us from the Bank of Japan suggesting they might look at expanding that, 0.5% negative to 0.5% positive kind of window that they operate in typically. So let us know what's happening here.
Yeah, we're just seeing a huge U.S. dollar resurgence. And this has happened a few times this year. You'll remember that 2022 was all U.S. dollar all the time as inflation fear was heightening globally, but primarily in the U.S. first. And the U.S. was hiking interest rates first. And the U.S. dollar was used as a flight to quality a lot of times, given its relatively higher interest rates and economic strength and everything on down the line. And Brendan, this has happened a couple of times here in 2023. Obviously, a much more mixed bag as U.S. dollars come off its highs against the yen and against the euro and pound as well. But every time U.S. dollar gets near its lows, or we start to think that, maybe Australia will hike its interest rates past the U.S., or maybe the U.K. will hike its interest rates past the U.S., the U.S. resurges once again as being the strongest one. And this last week has been another case of this reversion to 2022 or whatever you want to call it, in both that Aussie case and in the Japanese yen case here, where we toyed with this idea of Bank of Japan last week. They actually came out more hawkish than they have in the last couple of years, but the market tells them that apparently not hawkish enough, as the yen gains hundreds of pips going into the Bank of Japan meeting Thursday night, Friday morning, and then they came out a little bit more dovish than expected. And you can see here, not only did they give back that ground, the yen did, as this is the dollar yen chart resurging back towards its highs. They gave back that ground and then some, Brendan. Now we're looking at potentially getting back to 145, last year's highs 150, and those were 30-year highs in the dollar versus the yen. And so this has just been a general theme here in 2023 that we'll get in these cycles of a couple of weeks, a couple of months even, where the euro gets up to 112 or the pound gets up to 130. And you're thinking that the U.S. is going to relax rates a little bit, and inflation has come down and everything else. And then they put in that strength once again, as we've seen it in the last 24 hours with Australia, in the last couple of days with Japan. And then we look forward to the Bank of England meeting on Thursday, and then a slew of U.S. data. So right now, back on that U.S. dollar strength foot, and a lot of it coinciding with the strength that we're seeing in U.S. 10-year rates as well. I'm sure you've noted that not only are the chances of another hike here in the U.S. up to 30% and climbing here this week, and not only are our 5.5% rates 50 basis points higher than the UK and Canada, over 100 basis points higher than Australia and the Euro area, and obviously Europe and Japan. And it's kind of a joke. But now 10-year rates in the US are climbing. The middle and long end of our yield curve, which has been so inverted for over a year. You and I have been talking about this for months and months and months. Now that middle and long end of the yield curve climbing, as well as the sticky inflation teamed with just changing expectations here in the US, is building in strength in US interest rates across the curve and enormous strength for that US dollar relative to everyone else. And you're starting to see stocks slip a little bit, coinciding with this U.S. rate strength. I don't know what you've been thinking here, but I can't help but see some of the first bearish action for stocks in the last couple of months here, coinciding with 10 years getting back to 4%, Brendan.
Yeah, and let's face it, I mean, needed right across the board. The market's been on such a tear right across the board. If you look at individual names, obviously, just absolute monsters. I want to rewind the clock here a little bit and get your take on what we got back on Friday with that PCE print, because there were portions of that came in, again, still kind of where it was expected to, or a little bit higher even, although the headline number was a little bit better than expected. The market, again, month after month we see this, it seems to just shrug it off anyway.
Yeah, really interesting that the headline number there, the core PCE that Powell has been looking at and a lot of people have been moving to in the last couple of months here, as headline inflation has come down, but now really looking at the sticky core inflation, that came in lower than expected. And you saw a knee-jerk reaction of interest rates kind of giving away some ground, and stocks feeling maybe a little bit better, a little bit less fearful of interest rates moving higher. The market shrugged that off completely, and you're seeing even higher rates this week, even higher US dollar, and some more stock turbulence. As I think that it's funny here in 2023, obviously so different than data releases 10 years ago, and very, very different than data releases of the 80s and 90s when inflation was spiking. So much data and so many people having eyes on this data that it's being so dissected, Brendan, that even though the headline number was lower than expected, the stickiness of this inflation still hanging in not only Fed Chair Powell's minds, but traders' minds as well. As, like I say, interest rates and inflation spike over the course of the last year, and the projections really looking at only hanging around for a year or two. And the last couple of weeks here, that projection of how long inflation might be sticky and how long interest rates might be higher than 4 or 5% continues to build out in time to the point where, like I say, 10 years now above 4%. What'll be really interesting between the non-farm number on Friday, the next Fed meeting that's not due for another month and a half, and what's due to come here in the U.S., will the 10-year interest rate stay above 4% by the next time the Fed speaks in about 45 to 50 odd days here? Because if it does, Brendan, that'll be a new era for interest rates here. Every time we've hit 4%, the 10-year has come off, and people have started to talk about how, interest rates will only be high for the next, 6 to 12 months. That continues to further out in time. And if this 10-year stays at 4%, gets to 4.25%, 4.5%, and the next Fed meeting rolls around, I think we'll see a really different economy and a stock market as well. As I think the stock market has really been feeding off of this idea of rates are high, but they're not going to be high for that long, right?
Yeah.
And that amount of time continues to lengthen.
Yeah, and it's a good point in the sense of Fed Chair Powell even mentioned that during the press conference at the last Fed meeting, going out to that 2025 kind of timeline again as far as cuts are concerned. They keep trying, all these reporters keep trying to get him to say something, away from that. But I mean, he's been telling us, we can't say, he hasn't been telling us that not only is it maybe 10 months, that is, not years, but not 10 months, but maybe even 12 going out to 2025. So let's look forward now. You mentioned the Bank of England coming up this week. We'll get a reading on their situation, which also can be projected out as far as the overall global situation is concerned. But as you mentioned, non-farm payrolls Friday. We got this JOLTS number this morning. Didn't really say a lot. We get the ADP private payrolls number as well before the NFP. Again, there's 2 months worth of data. As you said, it's 45, 50 days until the next Fed meeting. So we get 2 entire months worth of data before we get the next Fed. So this is really the first one as far as the employment market is concerned.
Yeah, it'll be a really interesting employment number on Friday. I think that'll be the real headline of the week as we approach that and then go into it. But the Bank of England one will be quite interesting, given that they've been the next most aggressive. They've been the most consistent competitor to the U.S. They're at 5%. We're at 5.5%. They're expected to hike another 25 basis points to get to 5.25%. And their inflation globally of the major economies has been the highest and stayed the highest. They still printed last time an inflation that was less than expected, like the U.S., but in the 7 handle. And so it'll be really interesting to see what the Bank of England says, because if they reiterate what Powell has been saying of, inflation is going to be here. We're still worried about that core part of the economy outside of energy and food, which obviously have come lower, although we're seeing that crude oil resurgence. But anyways, if we see a reiteration of that idea, higher interest rates for longer, yeah, maybe the pound rallies against this U.S. dollar, but I think that could be bullish for rates and bearish for stocks here. Obviously, on the flip side of that, if they come in line like Australia has, like Japan has, like Euro has in the last week, and say, we're watching it, but we're following the U.S. The U.S. is, they're the leader here. I think you'll see not only the pound give away some ground, but maybe a little of that fear lessen here. So it'll be not as interesting as that non-farm on Friday. Everything in the last couple of trading days has been U.S. centric here, but the Bank of England will give us a little bit of a lead on what we might expect from Powell in a month and a half here. But either way, so some really interesting stuff going on globally in terms of Forex and interest rates. And you're finally seeing that interest rate story not only resurge to the upside, but start to bleed into stocks again. It'll be a really interesting rest of the week.
Yeah, we were sitting here over the past few weeks, looking for these checkpoints as far as the stock market is concerned anyways. It felt almost like the market was waiting for the next catalyst to come through for it to either break higher again or break back to the downside. We get the last Fed meeting, comes and goes, really no change as far as what is happening in the market. So we wait and see. We might have to wait a little bit longer, however, depending on what happens on Friday. So great stuff, as always. Frank Caberna, now Director of Strategy at IG over in Chicago. Great to see you, as always.
Thanks, Brendan.
As always, a big shout out and a thanks to Frank. To be honest, if I had known about the new title there, Mr. Frank Caberna, the Director of Strategy, I would have probably said it at least 5 or 6 times today. So it was good that nothing got said. It's interesting that he's like, I don't want the attention. No, but you deserve it, so it's fine, Frank. You've definitely earned it. He's a humble guy, too. That's why we love him so much. He's a good dude. I love that dude. So a couple of things happened. Mashworth in the chat, shout out to you as well. I'm going to get to Amazon first, and I'm going to get to Yellow Corporation. Amazon, I'm looking for something to short, and I was looking at things that are at the high as the market's trying to roll over. It can't seem to go green if we get to 15.9. But how about something that's just flat out weak? Amazon's down on 1.5%. I have this 130-150 line that's been sitting here for quite some time. It's been a good level to trade off of in either direction whenever you get breakdowns through it and breakouts through that level. It's got a double bottom off this 13.15. So a current low is just above it. If we take out that low, I'm looking to go short and give to the local high right now, which is about 75. If it breaks the bottom, I'm just going to take, I'm taking that trade. If we're breaking out the top, maybe not. You know, I might, if we're just going green in the futures and somehow as we go green, Amazon's at the low, I probably don't take it. That's a pretty unlikely scenario, so I don't think I have to worry about it. I was just in and out of yellow, and you're going to see I kind of keystroke yellow. I would have gotten out anyways. Try to break that high of the day. Failed to break, so I was going to get out, and then it wicked under. I went to jump back in, and I kind of jumped back in for too many shares and instantly got out of it. Only wanted to give it back to 45, but this is starting to go again. This was a good long off that the 240, the 250, got away from it. Once it was above 2, it's been all about that long. Once it got past that 2, it's through pretty much every important area until we get to $4. So when it gets to 4, I think that's where I want to short it. I think I paid for locate, so if we see $4, I'd probably short that today. There's still room to go, but above 350, you got to worry about the timing of it all. So yellow was great in the afternoon yesterday. It gave you that breakout. We had the long going into that $2 level right at the close. Maybe we get the same kind of thing going into 5, but I don't want to rush into it necessarily.
I was talking about taking a fail break. Oh. Sorry, muted. I was talking about 118 fail break on AMD, but couldn't even get there. It wouldn't print 99s really, and I kind of chased a little bit at 90s, and then I added through 80s, which was a reserve. I'm kind of just looking for 50s, looking for it to give up the 50 period. I kind of have this idea of potential profit taking coming in the last hour going into earnings, so we'll see if that happens. Basically break even stop at this point. Just kind of, working on a little bit of weakness. Even though the market's going up, AMD is still kind of just slowly fading down and starting to sell. So I think that we could probably get into this 117.30 kind of area, maybe all the way down to 117, but not really, that optimistic about it. And, any signs of buying, I'm getting out of this one. I'm not going to hold it even all the way back to 118 there. So basically, just back to my first entry, first profit takers in front of 50. And we'll see where that goes. Upstart is basically, I'm out of most of it. Actually, now that we've given up 71, now I'm out of all of it. So Upstart's done. That was a good trade. I thought that we could get to like 75 or something, but not today. We'll wait till tomorrow. It seems to gap up every other day or so. So Upstart remains strong. Where did I put Carvana? What's Carvana doing? Yeah, Carvana just fading off, so nothing there on Carvana. AI fading off. There's really not a whole lot going on.
You seen Rivian today?
In my world. No, what's going on with Rivian?
Shout out to Drizzy Jr. Says, check out Rivian. Yeah, we'll check out Rivian. Wow, good bounce today on Rivian. Look, a lot of names bounced off the bottom. We've kind of highlighted a few, but this is just as impressive as any. $26, $26.30 into $27.10. Now the opening range top is pretty much right here. Like there's one wick. I wasn't trading it at 9:30, but I'll trust that that's true, that it got to 27.30. That seems logical. Like went right to the pre-market high. These are dark pool dumps that come in at 8 o'clock, so you ignore those candle wicks when you see them. So it looks like 27.30 was the pre-market high. We got right there at the open and dumped, and now you're consolidating underneath. This is a good level. I love playing, because the thing about trading it off of here is you could almost take either direction. You could try it, breaks 20, doesn't get through 30, short it on the way back down, or you can take a breakout either at the 30 level or breaking out into the 30 level. The futures are at a point where my gut's telling me one wick on the futures, it doesn't matter whether you're looking at the NASDAQ or the ES, and you could attempt to go green through this local high, and if it fails, that's a heck of a short entry. So my gut's telling me, because I'm in only longs, that I want to be doing that kind of a short trade. on something. Now Rivian is setting up that way, but the better trades have been in the afternoon. I don't know, maybe better is the wrong word, but the trades that have worked the best for me in the afternoons the last couple of days have really just been some of these the runners. And Yell, maybe I was in too hastily there off 350, but I think it's going to try and make another run at this high of the day. It hasn't gone explosive yet. Like, this can go 30, 40 cents, 10% in a heartbeat. That's not really what happened when it got through 350. It was a local break at 30. So if I'm not long off the 30 level, I got to find a long on this next consolidation, which feels like it could be right here. Maybe this 40 to 50 area can give me a long. But there's now size again at 350. That's the problem with Yellow. Might need to retake 350, and that's going to set up another breakout through 60 with a 10-cent stop, actually.
I'm amazed that I haven't had any fills on that Yellow in the past couple of days, but just haven't paid any attention to it. I don't know, the bankruptcy thing, like I usually like going long small caps that have good news, not bad news, but the bad news is the confusing thing that puts everybody offside. So I guess maybe that's the way to play it. Just don't go along the ones with good news. Only those that are going bankrupt.
Well, I like the logic of if it's down so much, like what else is going to happen? You know, like if it was at 50 cents it was a more expensive, obviously it's a big move to the downside. Like you look at Mullen, like if Mullen says they're going under when it's trading underneath, I don't know where it is. I'm assuming it's at 13 cents. Let me just, before I talk, yeah, it's at 13 cents. Like if Mullen says they're going under and you're short the stock, at what point do you just, okay, this is what we can get out of it? Like, I don't know. Like, it's ridiculous. It went down underneath 10 cents, reverse split, and was back at 10 cents pronto. So, yes, it's worked. You win, short sellers. But if they declare bankruptcy, I'm telling you right now, if Mullen goes under and it's still trading down here, it's going to be a long for like at least a couple of days. At least a couple of days, it's gonna unwind and bounce to the upside. That's just how it seems to work. So, as long as that's what's happening in Yellow, that was the thesis for me when they declared the bankruptcy, found a bottom, and then the next day there's like the second it shows you this, fine, you know, down, declares bankruptcy, holds a low. It's just a long after that because it's a shorts covering squeeze type play. You know, as far as I'm concerned, it is going to quadunk. I wouldn't be holding this for a swing trade. That's just me. We're day traders anyways, but until it shows you that it wants to break this trend, I think you can play the long side of it. Just understand, fundamentally speaking, they shut down operations and they might not survive. And you don't know what's going to happen to the equity holders. So trade it with caution. I never go into a long without a stop on these. Like I'll stop out pretty tight. When we broke the 4, I was moving a trailing stop the entire time. Like I had here, I have a stop under 3. I'm never letting this get into a halt on me. Like if I'm trapped in a halt, it's because out of nowhere it does a news halt. Yeah. Not because I'm sitting there and I wasn't paying attention when it dropped 10% on me. I would never take that risk on a company that could be going bankrupt. It's not worth it. That's an ugly, ugly way to get burned. So Amazon's bouncing. I know I said if it broke down here, I would take the short underneath 131.50. The market's breaking higher, so obviously that's not going to come into play for me. Finally, they're getting some kind of a bounce here in a firm. It's still hanging out that range. I did add on the dip, and then I kind of took some profit out in front of 19.6, and when it broke the top, I added right back in what I get out of. So I needed to break the high of the day, then I'm going to start to get out on the way to 20. It is starting to go. AI is holding. Uber is still flat. Nikola, I was convinced Nikola was going to make another run. I guess it's back at VWAP now. I'm not adding to this unless it's at $3. Or it breaks out this local high. Breaks 330 and we can consider adding to it, or if it gets down to $3. Everything else is insane. AMD, how many times, what's the size on 118 here?
It's not very much.
Not that, yeah, like 40,000, 50,000 shares on the offer at 118, and it cannot seem to hold through that price. It's wicked it once. Can it break it for, is that real?
I don't think that's real, no.
Okay.
On my other platform, that didn't happen, so I think that must not be real.
So why am I not short 99?
I bailed out of the short when it was printing 99s, thinking that we were just going to break because the size wasn't very big, so you have like little protection there, but it doesn't really want to print 118 at all for some reason.
I look at this and I don't want to take a breakout long. I'm pretty sure of that.
No. I would like to take the break back down, get the same kind of trade, just going back down, back through, and then you probably get through this 60 a lot faster if you do a fail break up here, but yeah, it doesn't really want to print 118 at all. just goes up, prints 98s, a little bit of 99s, and then comes straight back down. So maybe you just got to front run it, but there's really no size to front run against. So I don't know. I feel like
Looks like it's going to break it here.
Yeah, it looks like it's going to break.
Maybe a fail break.
And it doesn't. This is just what it's been doing since back here. But oh, there we go. All right.
It just filled everything on the offer at 18 and didn't go through.
Interesting.
You've got to be kidding. That wasn't even BS. Like, they actually filled everything. They're usually, it'll be, when that happens and it doesn't go, like somebody pulls their offer, but they just got, like all 50,000 shares or whatever it was just got filled in one shot. And then there was a refresher at 18 that just now broke to the upside. Now, I'm thinking failed break.
Yeah,
like it just got to 05s was the local high there. Like I think I saw printed 05s just now as we're in there live. If it gets back under, you look for that under trade. Oh, that's wow. You're not even getting 99s there.
I have 99s.
You got 99s?
Yeah. I pretty much punched it right before it even printed. So let's see if we can get back into these 60s pretty fast.
Yeah, that was
here.
a great fail.
This is what you wanted to see. This is what I should have been waiting for on the initial trade. Shouldn't have taken that L initially. But yeah, let's see this get really quickly down. Again, we print 118.05. That's got to be out of this one. But looking pretty good for a fail break on AMD here.
Yeah, I'm in it now, but I got 95s.
I think we can trend back into 117 before the end of the day if we get going pretty fast here, but it did start to bid up pretty fast. So I don't know. Let's see what happens here. Lots of selling coming in. Market still at the high. If the market wicks the high, we're good to go on this one for sure. But
it's still true. The market's still going.
Yeah, market is still going.
It's almost better if the market pushes without AMD breaking 18 again.
Yeah, for
and
sure.
then comes back in, because what you want to extend the longs a little bit. And then it works out a little bit better. Oh my goodness. Of course I take AMD. I don't think I'm going to be able to get this yellow. Yeah, the yellow might have been the one. But I like the AMD setup. I was sitting there saying I think a failed break looks good here. So I grabbed the failed break there. But I guess if you just take the yellow long, I don't have enough level 2s to take another position. So I'm not going to chase it. Uber's starting to go, but it went like 10 cents in the money. That's really not that much. RGTI. Rigetti Computing, not Dave Rigetti. I know there's another famous Rigetti that most of you are probably familiar with, but Dave Rigetti was a pitcher for the Yankees back in the day. That's the one I know. The other one is probably famous online. So RGTI, that is what we call a gap fill. Last time I checked, that's a pretty impressive gap fill. But when you fill in the gap, that is somewhere in the 340 to 380 range. That's a big, wide range in there. Like I'd call it here to here, could be some chop, but it's already filled it in once it gets to 340. So that's a tough one to go long off the high break. Yellow, when you pull up that same yellow chart, just to give you an idea, like why would you maybe prefer where yellow can go? Yellow's got room to 4, it's at 360, that's 15%. Upside, were it to take the break, I should have taken this break instead of AMD, so.
Yeah, a little size popped up on the bid at 85 there on AMD. There's like 1,000 lots, 1,500 lots or something. So looks like this one could go through the high. That's the risk, up to 06 is there where we topped out before.
Oh, yellow.
Is how I am going to play this one. We'll see. It could still work if that seller is still there at 18 evens. That was kind of reserving it before we got through. But not looking great for the short at the moment.
I hate AMD. Yellow's at 75. It's still going. Oh, come on. I should have taken this instead. I'm out of AMD when it just broke that local high. This is what it's opportunity cost. Trading comes down to that. Trading is if-then statements, but there's an opportunity cost. Like it's one thing when you're in, like you can be in Uber, which is going sideways, looking for a breakout. You can sit in that one. The risk management's going to be pretty easy. But when you're trading AMD or yellow, you're going to be a little bit more active, nimble. I want that level 2 up. I want to make sure that I'm not missing something on it. So when I picked AMD, I put that on top of my yellow level 2, and this is that was a huge mistake. So I will slap the fail on myself for not taking this breakout. You can talk about it all you want, but instead of doing that, I did this on AMD. So I lost 6 cents on AMD. It's not that bad, but it's the opportunity cost. That is a much bigger loss than a small hit on AMD because yellow, it gave you like the same thing. That it looks like it's going to give you the same thing that it did earlier off that $4 level. And I'm not chasing it. I think 4 is going to be resistance on this stock anyways. Ooh, I have to get to Affirm because that's what Upstart. There's a question about Upstart. Can it go more? There's room for this to continue to go on up. There's plenty of room for Upstart to go further. The volume is just not very good. It's into this monster. Like it filled in this gap. This is about 71 where we are here. Once it gets in and holding above here, this is a monstrous level. It's like $20 worth of room on Upstart, but it's just getting into it today. So I kind of feel like it might be a tomorrow thing. Like it needs to close above 70 today. And then we get the continuation tomorrow, or maybe it does a pullback. This has been a steady squeeze. It has dips, but it's been a very steady squeeze from $12. Like the 2 stocks I think that are up the most. I'm pretty sure the 2 stocks up the most percentage-wise in the S&P, or see in the market. On the year, it's Carvana. But you can't tell me something since the beginning of May when this started squeezing. There cannot be anything better than Upstart. 6 times since May.
Yeah. Crazy move on Upstart.
And we're not just long, like, we're not just looking long every single day on this until it really turns.
Yeah, and it does similar moves every day off the open, or it had been previously. I haven't seen it since I recognized it, sadly, but it'll just kind of fail break the first even dollar and then make its move up if it's going to do that like right off the open kind of move.
In fairness, okay, yes, stocks like Yell and penny stocks have done it. I kind of feel like it's implicit that I'm not talking about penny stocks when I say that. But you guys are right. There's
penny
all
stocks.
kinds of penny stocks and super low floaters. But I'm talking about something that's at least a medium float. Like if it's underneath 2 million float, then I'm not really counting it.
Yeah, of course. I just got short AMD again, one last time off 118. It looks like it wants to fail it. It has to go and break 85 really quick here and then get into those 60s. I think we can do that. I feel like we've done this 118 level enough times. The risk is tight enough that this makes sense to try it one more time. And the market did actually kind of wick the high here, and we are starting to make a bit of a pullback down on the NASDAQ. So not looking bad market-wise. Let's see if this actually works one last time off this 118 level, and we can get back through the 60s here. I mean, being stubborn this morning off 115 was fruitful on AMD, so maybe being stubborn off 118 is going to be fruitful here, although it looks like I am about to get punched out of this one again.
Fruitful. I like that word. Fruitful is anything that gives you a win, whether it's I'm getting some FOMO looking at Yell, but I'm gonna keep that level 2 up so that I have to live with it. We'll power it up for everyone that has yellow. I finally get a whopping back to the local high, 10 cents on the first Uber. I'll take some more out if it gets to here. This is just so I can go over some of the names. AI is kind of holding 44, but yellow is now at $4. So that was the level on the daily chart. Okay, so it's fine. You just have to, obviously you're going to get some FOMO in this situation, but this is the level that I was looking to start thinking about a short, was when it breaks 4 even. It did not break 4. I wanted a fail break of 4 that couldn't get past 425. That's what I'm looking for, because I want, you want longs above $4 if you're trying to short something like this. I think just standing in front of 99, okay, great. If you just shorted 99s, you got yourself a 10-cent winner, assuming you can actually stop out right at 4 even. I think you're slipped to like 7s or 8s, maybe even more than that. I got slipped to 4 on Palantir short at 20. Like, what do you think you're getting slipped on yellow when it breaks 4 even? So I much prefer to be long somewhere into that level as opposed to try to take a breakout. And if it does a break of $4 here, I'm just looking for it to fail around the quarters and then try the short trade. I did pay for locates this morning, so it just broke 4 even. Congratulations to everyone that had the long. It's not enough to say it. You got to put the trade on as well. I was even in this trade and stopped it out looking for a place to get back in and then did not do it. So wow, it couldn't even get past 5s. Are you kidding me? I was not ready to punch. I wanted it to extend further, so I was not actually ready to punch 99s. I thought we were going to get through 5s and get to 10s. Oh my goodness, they just came right back in. So it just dumped to 80s, and someone insta-bid it back up to 90 for 50,000 shares. So I canceled my order. It doesn't mean it's not good, the short, but if I see someone do that, drops to 80, I'm buying here, market order, and I show up for 50,000. That means they cleared out 10 cents worth of liquidity and then showed up on the bid for 50,000 more shares. So that buy was probably at least 70 or 80,000 on yellow back into the 90 level. So I abort the short in front of the 4 even. Now it needs to take out the high again and get to that 420 level. So that's all in real time. You got to make these decisions. You're not going to go counter trend into a size buyer. I think that's kind of dumb. When it fails a break, ideally what you're looking for is the bid dropping. Like people taking profit and the bidders dropping because no one wants to buy it into a dump. If that's not happening, then you don't want that short. That's why I like to fail break at 4 even, because if it goes, you got stops under 4 and people waiting around until 360 or 350 to buy the dip, and then you're trying to capture that big candle in there. Once that's not available, you don't want to fight it too far. So I'm just going to go back over to C3AI, because if it doesn't break 45 this time, I don't know why I even bothered off. Get that out of there. I offered like in front of 48 when I had more size up there, and I never actually canceled the order. But if we can't get through 45 this time, I think this is probably done. It's making another push. This long was from like 120, and even then that was like getting back into it. Like this all started at 1 o'clock, and then I got back in at 120. If it can't get through 45 even, it might not be that dollar winner that we're wanting and extending further than that. Decent day for C3AI, but the biggest trade was probably right around here. Just after we left the morning show, AI picked up in volume, broke out that 41. That's what you wanted to have. It was right at 11:30. Like, look at that breakout. It's 41.80 or 42. Volume kicks in and it runs. I didn't have it till it broke out that local top. So I'm going to trail this one out underneath like 70s here. Doesn't seem like it wants to go again. How many times is this going to fail this 45 level?
Yeah, it does not seem to want to go today, that C3AI. I was trying to be so stubborn with that one today, and it just would not go for me. I'm being stubborn with AMD right now. I added on the break of that size at 85, so now we're looking really good on this one. Starting to really flush, getting into the 50s. Let's go. All right, that was fast. Take a little out here. Come on, fill me 51s. I know you want to fill 51s. And 117.30 next target after we break through 50s. And then, you know, maybe we get into this 117 price. I'm not going to hold my breath for that. I'll have most of this out by the time we get down to there. But yeah, liking the move finally on AMD. Third time's the charm on this short. Wow, all right. We're really starting to move now. Maybe we can really break this 35 level and get moving very quickly into 117. I'm gonna throw the bid there at 31. All right. Really starting to dump now. Here comes the profit taking on AMD. Wow. All right. I guess just hold this and wait. I don't know what else to do with this.
That is a dump off.
Yeah, that is a great
It's
dump.
all alone too. I'm scanning to see if anything's falling with it. Nothing.
Let's see. All right, takes him out here at 22s. Fill me. All right, now I'm just going to hold a piece, see if we can, I don't know if we're going to get to VWAP. I think the bounce could be pretty aggressive on this, given that this was such a hard and fast fall. But quick, 80 cents on that 118 break. I will take that any day. Yeah, that's surprising and a good trade there.
NVIDIA did come in a little bit like $1. NVIDIA came in $1, but AMD being a less expensive stock, that's relatively speaking, that's a much larger move down in AMD than it was in NVIDIA. I'm going to get back to yellow in a second, so I'm going to take out that high. But NVIDIA was at 67 and dropped in here. Most of that move just now was this dollar move, so it's not that big of a deal. I did get trailed out of C3AI on the long. It broke down, so I said if it failed 45, we just get it out. So we get it out 44.70, ends up being a good out. Now it's pulling back in. I took some more out of Affirm at the high of the day. I didn't grab any more Uber out, but Amazon looks decent. Yell just made another move at the high and started to slow down again. The bid's not really there anymore. So if it makes one little push up, I might go for it again off this 4 level to try and short this level. If it breaks the high of the day, I still am looking for that 425 fail. but the buying that came in initially off 380 hasn't really stepped up again. So it's not running out of steam. The volume is still decent, but it's really slowing down. Pretty good volume into that break, and since then, it's really slowed down. So I want something in the mid-90s here if I can get it.
NQ is starting to fall with AMD here, so I'm thinking just kind of leave the rest of this position on. I've got like, I don't know, a bit less than a third left on it, so I think I'll just hold that, see if we can get a little bit lower. If the NASDAQ feels like flushing, then I just might get a gift here on this trade that I may not have otherwise deserved. Carvana's still kind of bidding up. So it's not necessarily giving up the idea of potentially taking out 50 today. We're getting way too late for me to take that breakout, sadly, if it does show up. Upstart just...
it's 325 already.
Yeah. Upstart's going for that high of day as well. Wow.
That's one of the reasons why I'm holding on to this Affirm, because I think if Upstart takes out the top, Affirm has a good chance to finally go. Yellow, I did get filled there at 93s. I didn't really like that price. I kind of canceled taking more. Now I'm trying to get some 97s in here. The risk to reward is pretty decent in either direction if it breaks. Like you could take a long break and stop out 380 and it could go to $5. You could take a short here, stop out at 405 for a 10 to 15 cent hit. And if it breaks 380, you're going to get somewhere into this range. So the risk to reward does favor either direction. Here, Day Trade the World, now it's breaking down, and I wish I had more at 93. But here, Day Trade the World, we can pay for locates very cheap. I'm pretty sure it was like 1/8 of 1 cent per share for locates on yellow. Now, if it was, I'm just throwing it out there, if it cost 15 cents per share, this short it actually doesn't even make any sense because instead of risking 10 to 15 cents, you're risking double that when you short the stock because you're paying for the locates and then you're having to put the trade on. So risk does matter in terms of how much you're paying for the locate to be able to take a short trade. I'd only be looking long if it was very expensive, but these are really cheap. So let's see what happens here. Palantir, nothing doing. Oh my goodness, Upstart's still going. You're still long Upstart, right?
I actually bailed on the basically at the bottom there on Upstart.
Oh,
I probably should have just set a stop at this 70.50 price, but I only had, I don't know, I think it was 20% left down here, so I just punched out of it. But yeah, probably should have hung on for that high of day.
Oh, I know I wanted to do something. Thank you, Steve G, for reminding me. The likes do need some cat because we're not even at 500. However, I got this new thing. Here's what we're going to do. If we get to 1,000 likes today, then Max has to trade in Barcelona on vacation in Luis's office, and he has to Zoom call in and let us know how it's going. So that's what we're going to do. I'm half joking about that. Although if we get to 1,000 likes, I did just say it on camera, and then that puts some pressure on you. And I only said it like 3 or 4 times in the morning show. If you weren't watching, Max is going to be in Barcelona when NVIDIA has earnings. He immediately got FOMO when he realized that. I told him we have an office, a Day Trade the World office in Barcelona, and Luis is a friend of the show and a great dude. And he'd probably be more than happy to have a trader visit. Because if you're a Day Trade the World, you can visit another office. You just have to put the request in. So that's putting you on the spot there, Max. I think it's a great option. And you know what you can always do? You can just tell your girlfriend that you can blame it all on me. So there's this idiot at work, and he was telling me it's a really good idea to do it, and I felt the pressure. And like he's kind of a jackass, and he said it live. It's fine. I don't mind it. And then you put it. Then all of a sudden, like it's deflected, right?
All right.
You always want that one deflection friend.
Yeah, of course, of course. You need to be able to.
Fabian's laughing, but it's actually, it's legit. Trust me, it's legitimate. Where you get that one friend that's like, cool, just don't worry, man. Just blame it on me, and it's perfectly fine, and then you'll be off the hook for whatever nonsense. Like I won't say his name, but you know, everyone has a friend like that. Like, yeah, you know, we're out for a few drinks, but I was out with so and so, and sorry, I was a little bit late, but yeah, I think we're having a rough time. It's just that one deflection.
Oh yeah.
And then all of a sudden you're now related. It's not the end of the world.
Yeah, yeah.
You know what's up. You guys know exactly what I'm talking about.
I know what you're talking about. Yeah. Yeah, that Upstart high is looking extremely, extremely juicy. Also, I should probably just bail out of this AMD.
Where did it bounce?
It bounced right off of that move down. So basically made the move down. I said this bounce could be aggressive, and probably should have just bailed on everything at that point. But yeah, we get back up to that breakdown price of wherever I'm short, 83. 85 was the breakdown, but we get back up to break even. I'll just get out of the rest of this. But yeah, good bounce right there on AMD. Maybe somebody knows something going into earnings there.
Somebody always
buying
knows
up this dip.
Oh my goodness, yellow's going to run the 4. Oh, reserve at 4. Ooh, that was interesting. Okay. So there's an iceberg offer at 4. They just filled the entire level for about, I don't know, like 75, close to 100,000 shares on the offer. Yeah, so, and then they filled 4 even. There's not even size there anymore. It was a refresher, like an iceberg, because it went down to 0, held it, and there's a lot of volume going off now. It's 3:30. We're gonna get the early look on the imbalances. This is so binary. I should just get some, I gotta have some bids out in case it flushes. We're running out of time for this to resolve, so it might not even be a big flush. Once it breaks 80, I gotta be covering this trade to the downside, because we're running out of time for this to go. And the longer it does this, remember yesterday, like it wouldn't go, then right there, like right at the end of the day, it broke out. That same thing happens, then we could be looking at right at the end of the day, it breaks that 4, and you get the long that I was looking for. But I feel like that long already happened here at 3 o'clock. And the 4 was a short level that I liked. So I'm only really risking 12 to 15 cents depending on that slippage, but the volume is really picking up on this name. It's going to do something quick. Just to go over this because it's 3:30 and it's late. 103 to buy, that is the imbalance. That's not very big. Nickel is doing absolutely nothing. If it can't hold on to 310, I'm just getting out. This 3 long is from this morning. If it can't go, I give up. Nickel doesn't want to do anything. Uber ain't losing, but it's also not making a bounce to VWAP at this rate. So decent bounce, not much of one just yet. I'm going to get more out in the 50s and maybe hold on to the last bit for either 350 or VWAP here at 47 even. So not bad, but it could have been a heck of a lot better. And same thing with a firm. I did add to it, was able to get more out at the high of the day. When it pressed the high, it's making higher lows, but it's not really screaming. For my original entry, a win's a win, but I thought this had more squeeze potential than it's showing me on a firm. What else we got going on? Rivian is at that high of the day. I elected to get into yellow, so we'll see. Like this does have the same kind of potential. Rivian's at that top that I was considering a failed break fade, but it's not really failing that breakout. It gets following through on that break. If you're looking for a failed break fade trade, it has to get back underneath 27.40 or at least 27.30. Somewhere around here, it's got to actually get underneath there. It's breaking away from that. So I thought you could take it in either direction, breaking out, but I was looking to short it if the futures weren't making some kind of crazy move positive, which they're not. Rivian's just doing it on its own.
That, what price is Rivian at? I wanted
27.40.
Oh, okay.
27 is that level. 27 is that daily. Yeah.
28 is the price that I've been waiting for the breakout. We're not there yet, but I think that 28, if we get it in the next few days, like we've been consolidating below 28 for some time. We didn't spend very much time up there.
Oh, there it goes.
I think that was pre-market actually. So yeah, I think 28 is a good level for a breakout on Rivian. Hopefully that's tomorrow. I will replace the Nikola chart with Rivian up here, so I remember tomorrow morning to have a look at that 28. But yeah, huge move, and now we're starting to kind of take off on this Rivian. Interesting. And there's yellow through the high. All right, $4.
It's still holding. Well, it broke 4, but not the high. It's going to break the high. I should reverse this, but I don't know if I want to reverse it. It's late in the day. It's 3:30. It hasn't broken the 405 high. It's through 4 even. The volume's picked up, but now there's a refresher at 405. There it goes. It just stopped out. I should have reversed it. I did not. Give it a couple of seconds. Is it holding the bid? Is it holding the bid? It still offers jamming 14, now 13. Get under 10 and see what happens. No, it won't even get under 10. Oh my goodness. Yeah, I should have reversed that one. Now I just want to get picked up.
What a move, but it stops at 420, so this could be the...
That's sort of the other... I just remembered this is the daily chart. That's 420. This is 425.
Oh, boom. All right, right through it.
I want to clear, yeah, clear this. I almost just got long in the exact range that I didn't want to take long, between 4 and 425, because that's where I'm looking for a failure point, and above 425 is where I feel like it can go. So...
Buying, not stopping here.
Yeah, it's not stopping. There it goes. It's 225.
I'm expecting this to kind of pick up really fast based on this tape. Could this halt until the end of the day? For sure it could, as we keep making new highs here on yellow.
I just talked myself out of taking the long at 415 to wait for it to break 25, and then you get long on the 25 break. But you know what? There's a method to that madness, because it was still in the fail zone where I think it could dump. Instead here, I can give it to 420, be risking 10 cents, and there's room to the upside. I don't know if it's going to halt, because it halted once early. And since then, it hasn't really done anything. Like, if it's halting to the, in my estimation, if it halts down. That's why I have a tight stop on this. I think any halt on yellow is probably to the downside. Too late in the day for it to make a halt up. I want it to get to 450. I think that's where you start taking profit into the 450 level, 450 break, then start covering. With only 25 minutes left in the day, I feel like I was already offside once here. This will be the regret. We already talked about this. I should have had this break. I went over and shorted AMD instead of taking the yellow break here at 360, and that was a horrible decision. You know, like, yellow would have been great all day long for the longs, and I really liked it. Yesterday, it was my second best stock, and a lot of that had to do with the late long, and I still don't take the breakout on it because I looked at AMD, thought earnings, let's just do it, and now it might decide.
Wow.
Sometimes, like, you screw something up and the market gives you another chance. It doesn't always, so you take advantage of it when it does. But the market doesn't always want to reward you for missing out on chances. So it just got to 50. I just grabbed 20% out. Now I'm looking for a 450 break. If it breaks 450, I'm trailing it underneath that. I'm still break-even stop as it is.
Yeah, that 449 has 700 lots randomly on it, so you figure that 450 break could be pretty aggressive on this. I'm feeling some FOMO for sure on this yellow as we head over to the desk with Brendan.
Just be aware, guys, there's some comments coming through from Fed's Bostic right now. A little bit late in the day, but talking about some rate cuts needed still and inflation being too high. So just be aware for the overall market.
Oh, Boston. Why are Fed people talking at 337? I wish I remembered that there was a day we were at the old location in the office. It was St. Clair, which means it must have been like it was years and years ago. And I don't even remember who the VP was at the time. And it was like 350 right after the imbalances came out. And the vice president just came on and just said something about the economy and just reversed the entire move that everyone was in. So there's a 350 break. Hold it. Is it holding 350? 450. It's trying to hold. I'm trailing.
Oh, yeah.
There
Wow,
it is. Okay,
let's
so I'm
go.
trailing underneath it. There it goes. Okay. I try to offer 60s out there with 337. Otherwise, you hold it more. But I got to trail now underneath 440, underneath 450.
Oh,
There we
wow.
go. 470s.
Okay.
Oh my goodness. You should be long at 360. I'm talking to myself. I should be long at 360. You guys, I was talking to myself there. I should definitely have been long at 360. It only gave me a fill at 70, and it might be a wick top. That was just 480. It came right back really, really quickly there. That was a decent wick top. So I just grabbed some profit there at the 60 level again. Now we're just going to hold it to see if we can get to $5. Not bad, but I will forever be, like, I still have FOMO over that because that's really where you need to be long. That's the long right there.
Yeah, that's
okay.
a pretty good one.
The 360s, that's $1 on a $4 stock. Now remember, these guys are going potentially bankrupt. You're day trading here. You're playing momentum. The idea is that they're going bankrupt. It just got to the 80 level again and turned. So I'm going to try and get some in the 70s. There we go.
I should really be long at 405 right now. I think that for me, that's kind of the first time I've really looked at this stock today. But that 405 looked kind of awesome for a breakout.
What's crazy about it, like these guys, they're a huge operator. They've got tons of drivers who are now, they're huge. Like this is bad news for them. It's a bad story overall. This is just turning into an epic squeeze on essentially ceasing operations and saying that they could be going into bankruptcy protection, in which case, what do you think the shareholders get?
$5.
Here comes $5. It's not an ad at $5 situation at 348. 338. This is if it fails a $5 break, you get out.
Yeah, this is a wild move. This is exactly the kind of move that I like to be in typically. I'm getting some FOMO here at $5. Should I punch in at 5? I don't think so. That seems kind of crazy after a full dollar move on this $4 stock. But how have we not halted yet? Also, I guess I guess it's probably a 20%er. This, but Yellow is a decent-sized company. Sometimes they're only, I don't know. I don't know.
They're a
the rules on
decent-sized
these.
company. Or it's going to give up 70. Oh, yeah, it's kind of giving it up. No, it just
There's
held
some size
75
on the offer.
again.
Yeah, every dip's getting bought very aggressively.
Yeah, they're really
here,
buying
so,
these dips.
Yeah, there's some people potentially getting liquidated on this one. Neil's absolutely
All right, the
killing
trail's now at 70, and it's either because it just wicked down to 70 on a 75 break, and a buyer step back in. So it either breaks 70 down and we trail out, or this is going through $5. So we'll just leave it at that. I'm looking back over. Nicola's still doing literally nothing. Roll my eyes. Affirm is doing absolutely nothing. Roll my eyes again, and probably cover some of that as well. But yeah, the story. This is 2 days in a row on Yellow. Should be way more active on this stock. This really feels like it's going to dump at some point in the next 2 days. Like, it's how far do you really think we're going to go here? You broke $1. You're not going to get past these levels up here. Maybe you can get to 6. Maybe we'll see. I probably short that. Yeah, that Nicola's frustrating, Sod. The story has been for 2 days in a row in the afternoon, Yellow Corporation. So there it goes. It just trailed out underneath 70. I said we'd get out, we'd ring the register. If it could hold on to 470, you hold it through $4. But remember, this should have been a long at 360. Like, that's your real breakout. If we're trading like we did yesterday, that was the break. And I decided to short AMD instead. And you know what the worst part about it is? I didn't even win on AMD. Come to my chart for a second. That's not taking the 360 break. To do this short and lose 10 cents.
Yeah.
Decisions, right?
It happens. It happens.
360 long.
360 would have been a heck of a
360.
long, and then you could be adding at 4.
Oh my goodness.
Adding at 450. Yeah,
Right?
Yeah.
This
I
is
don't
what
know
happened.
why I'm not trading this stock. I mean, this thing is going absolutely nuts the last 2
We're
days, and
asking
I
the
haven't
right
even
question.
touched it once. That $2 break today, I don't know if that worked. Was that pre-market? I think that was pre-market. But Upstart made a high at 72, which I believe, if I go to the daily chart, is the gap fill that I had been looking at, 72 or 71.50. But Neil was showing me what he believes the gap fill to be, which is on the weekly chart, it looks more like 82, which makes some sense up there. So
It's stronger on the weekly.
yeah, pretty huge, huge levels. We got to the 71.50, 72 kind of level that we were looking at before. This day down, you could say, is 83. This first, or the open of this first day was $83, $84. So still some room potentially to go on this massive short squeeze on Upstart. I wonder if we're breaking 72 tomorrow morning, or maybe holding 70 off the open might be a way to play this one if we can hold that gap. But obviously, with only 15 minutes left, there's not going to be any more trades for me on Upstart. Might as well just check in on Nikola just for the fun of it. But I think this might be the longest I've ever held a trade since, when was this? 10? Maybe it's not the longest, but 10 o'clock all the way to 3:45. I think maybe it's time for me to say goodbye to this this trade here. I don't know what else I'm going to do with it.
You're right.
So we'll just bail out. Oh, I have a stop out, so I have to do that the other way. All right, done. Huge, huge trade there. NCLH was the one, Brankles is saying?
Brankles is yelling out that NCLH was the one. I would
Oh, yeah, that was pretty good.
Yeah, NCLH, I will be forever regretting. The only good news about NCLH is, at least, yeah, like I said, I stopped out multiple times here, but managed to get the out every single time. I just missed the bottom completely. And then when I had the higher low, I didn't hold on to it. I just never really didn't have the conviction in this like we did XPeng yesterday. So it was a good bounce. It was a great SSR bounce. I just didn't really think that was going to be the level, and that ended up being it underneath 1850. I was really just playing off of 19 the entire time, and 19 ended up being okay. But okay is only okay. Main event, Verlander to the Astros. Go Astros. That just kind of sucks for the Blue Jays. Why are you ruining my afternoon? It's the trade deadline in baseball, and the Jays, I think, just lost their starting shortstop, possibly for the season, because BOVESPA hurt his knee. We already traded for a replacement shortstop less than 24 hours after he got hurt. So I'm really just hoping, dude, you can have my ACL or MCL. I'm hoping it's not going to be serious because he's a stud, and the Jays need him. But the Astros getting Verlander back, that kind of sucks. It also tanks. Oh, that tanks one of my fantasy teams. I'm in a league where you have an AL team and an NL team, so it's a trade deadline. Sometimes if your guy gets traded and I have lots of AL pitching depth and not a lot of NL pitching depth, I'm literally top of the league in both. I did not need this to happen, so I have to go and find a replacement for Justin Verlander on my NL team, which really sucks. Thank you very much for the New York Mets. But you know what? Steve Cohen's just going to go out, sign a bunch of checks, and buy a bunch of players next year and do exactly the same thing. So Mets fans, it should be okay. Javier, thoughts on Smile Direct Club?
That's another short squeeze name.
That is a name I have not heard in a long time. They're reporting soon. Is that why we want to look at them? Let me just, I want to see when they report because I really don't know. It just broke $1.
Just broke $1.
They report soon? No, the 8th. They report August 8th, so that's next week, a week from today. The short interest, I don't see it on Trade Ideas, so I'll have to check Float Checker in a second. That's breaking $1 right now. Okay, so that's one good thing about it. But I always want to do this. Sorry, in real time. I just don't know what the short float is off the top of my head on Float. Where's Float Checker? There it is. Let me just refresh this, and when it loads back up, I'll let you guys know. I'm getting out of a firm under 60. That's where my stop is. Yellow just pulled back, so that breakout is definitely done. But Smile Direct Club,
it's a nice 80-cent breakout.
23% short float.
Okay.
Reports in 1 week. Just took out the dollar level. All of the squeeze names have been going. It is too late to make a play today. But if this is holding $1 tomorrow, yeah.
That sounds like one of those Wall Street Bets options yellows.
It's going on the iPad right now for tomorrow.
Yeah, that could be good tomorrow.
SDC, $1, and then I'm putting the short float, and I'm not putting any other notes. That's it. Seriously, that's what I do. I was telling Max this. We have these iPads, and the only thing I use it for is to keep notes on stocks. I don't do anything else with it. I have the notepad open, and that's where I had all the stocks, all the levels I'm watching for the week. It gives me, I don't have to take up screen space to have it. I found otherwise you're just throwing papers and sticky notes out every single day, and I love it. We got it for another reason that we don't use it for on the show, and it was just sitting there collecting dust. So either I take it home and not tell anybody about it and give it to my daughter, or I use it here. So that's why I decided to do, because I'm nice.
And we know where it'll be if it's suddenly not on your desk.
Yeah, I just outed myself, didn't I? If it disappears, then you guys know I took it home and gave it to my daughter.
I like that C3AI is holding up here. I was also looking at Tesla screaming into that 260, and then it just bounces $1, so forget that. I was going to potentially take the reversal at 260. But C3AI is holding up here at 44.25. Still has not broken 45 today. So 45 tomorrow should be a pretty simple trade on this one if it's available. Sometimes I do find that if this name goes up one day, then it'll pull back the next day and kind of rinse everybody that's trying to get long before making a move. So maybe taking 45 off the open doesn't work, but I think I'll try it regardless because you know the potential is there. You look at the daily chart, you look at where we were thinking we could get to today if this actually decided to go, and you know we have 45.70 there. Really, you're looking at 47.48, and then the eventual 50 break. And if you keep looking left on this one, I mean,
oh my goodness,
C3AI has come from $185 or whatever. I don't necessarily think it's ever going back there, but who knows? Next real stop on the daily chart is this like 54 kind of level. So got a long way to go potentially on this name, and I believe Obi mentioned or Prad mentioned the short float is 35% on AI, which I think is higher than it's ever been. So yeah, 35 right there. Nice looking setup for tomorrow's potential breakout on AI here.
I think we got to go to the desk before imbalances drop here. Let's go to Brendo.
This one popped up a little bit earlier, but couldn't find a reason why. Now there is one. MRVI gets all the way to 1160 there at the high. This one, TECH, T-E-C-H, apparently exploring a takeover bid, apparently for MRVI. Guys.
Good look there, and probably one we'll have on the radar tomorrow. I wanted to get to Lumen. We have 1 minute till imbalances, but there was a question about LUMN. So another 14% short float. They report aftermarket tonight. So this one sets up as well, 14% short flow. It's at $2. It needs to get through. It has to make a bit of a move here. It looks like 280 on the weekly chart, but this is not a bad start. It's going to close at the high of the day. This should be on the radar as well. Anything reporting it's got a short interest deserves our attention, at least in this market. I have trailing stops, and now I've tightened every single one of them up, and I'm on the offer of Nikola to just get out there. So I'm going to show the imbalances in just 30 seconds. We get them through our Day Trade the World P-Pro 8 platform here. So these are just the imbalances for the New York and NASDAQ closing auctions. Once we hit 350, you'll see it update. What you see here is just the residual from the morning. So Palantir was a sell imbalance when the market opened up of 800,000 shares, but that's all going to populate and change in just a little bit. Yes, Matt Carnes. There's a lot of things reporting, and we will get to some of them. MicroStrategies is one aftermarket. I see TLT, that's kind of weird. That's just treasuries. AT&T, Ford, we're the big names. Cisco, Cell. Mullen's a very small buy. No one cares about that. No big tech names. Nikola, 500,000 to sell is not much for a stock like Nikola. So another day where you don't have big tech showing up on the board. CCL, 500,000 to sell. You got Palantir with a small buy at 400,000. Really none of the big tech names are showing up. So what you want to see is maybe something pops up a little bit later. BND, maybe there's some kind of action happening. Anytime I see a name out of nowhere sort of show up like this,
it's an ETF.
this is like so like you have like a bond ETF, you have a couple of a bond ETF and TLT with sell imbalances. So I'm just going to make a mental note of those because I'm not used to seeing like like a treasury ETF and a bond ETF. I'm not really sure why those are showing up on the imbalance. So make a mental note and then just kind of see what happens with them overnight. But that's not something you usually see. So if you see me go screw face, I'm like, I've never seen BND actually show up on the locator, and I have no idea what that's actually going to mean. So I want to go back to yellow to give you an idea. Remember when I said if it's going to halt in one direction, it's probably to the downside. What goes up must come down. When it couldn't hold on to that buyer at 470, maybe that was a short. I wasn't ready to short it. That was a good short. If that failed 5 level underneath 470, right back into $4. Remember, the idea is that they are closing operations. It's squeezing, but they could be going bankrupt. It's not a great story overall. It's just a momentum play to the upside, but you've got to take your profit. Take your profit and run on these. Bigfoot, Yell wasn't free shorts, but for a Day Trade the World, it was basically free. 1/8 of 1 cent per share is what I paid this morning for those locates.
Upstart broke 72, goes straight to 72.60.
What?
So yeah, new high of day once again. Upstart ain't stopping. Is this just the start of a bigger squeeze? I feel like it's probably close to the end of the squeeze, but who knows? If people have been like averaging into this thing on the way up and I don't know, waiting for that gap fill. I mean, I don't know. Usually these big days up are followed by decent days down on these squeeze stocks, but if Upstart's able to take out this 72.50 off the open tomorrow, I feel like we're seeing a pretty big move once again, especially with something like Carvana and AI. Like they're all kind of going together, which is helping each other out, I guess, on these insane squeezes. Wish I was a little more aggressive on this one in the morning at that. I mean, I lost all the data here when I crashed my chart on this one, but it kind of held 66 really nicely in the morning.
I have it up here because this is exactly what you're talking about. Like this 66 level on Upstart. Here's open, wick the bottom, then really pushes through the low. At the bottom, it just comes right back up and then holds a higher low. So you get that wipeout bottom through the morning range. After things settle down, the market tends to want to mean revert at that time of day, getting into 11 o'clock. So you get the higher low, and then it's off to the races. So I'm with you on that one. And a note on how cheap the locates were. I didn't check how expensive locates were on yellow in the afternoon. Now, obviously, if there's a stock of interest and I know I'm going to trade it, then I'm securing the locates if I want them when I sit down in the morning at about 7 o'clock. because that's the best time to pay for it. Because once it breaks out, I'm sure by the time it gets to 5, it's the cost could be 5 times or 10 times the cost, because everybody wants to short it at that point in the day. So I always pay for my locates really early if I have an idea that I might be wanting to short the stock. And I didn't even think I was going to try a short till $4, but if I'm going to go long into that level, it's not going to cost me anything. Essentially, it's almost free to secure those locates down when it's at a low price. Early bird gets the worm. There's no loss in being there. You get a quote here at Day Trade the World, and you can either say, hey, that's cheap, I want to pay for the locates and have them all day, or you can say no and reject it once you get that quote. I'm only in a firm left. I shouldn't have added to it maybe. I should have just taken the upstart break. It's holding above resistance, but it's not going anywhere, so I'm just going to trail out if it breaks this local support. And I did finally get out of Nikola, because got to get out at some point. You didn't get out, but it just can't seem to do anything. It's at 315. The $3 level is great, and it's been a good hold through here, but nothing in the afternoon on Nikola. So it ends up, weirdly enough, being like a fantastic stock, but the biggest trade was in the pre-market on Nikola. Let's get that earnings board up. We know one name that's going to be important.
That AMD.
I thought we were going to say Virgin Galactic.
Virgin Galactic.
Oh, come on. You mean to tell me you're not most interested in Virgin Galactic?
I think I'm most interested in what's happening with Denny's today after hours. I think, how's the pancake trade going?
When was the last time you ate at a Denny's?
Actually, not too long ago, and I was not pleased with it, but it was not my choice.
It wasn't your choice?
No. I was where was I? Charleston with my family, and my dad just pulled into a Denny's because he was angry and he was hungry.
If you're hangry, Denny's is just fine. I don't mean to crap on Denny's, but there's a lot of names to watch out there. For Caesars could be a play. Pinterest has been trying to break out for a while. I keep thinking they're deal speculation. MicroStrategy, that's going to follow Bitcoin. But wow, there's some good ones. Virgin Galactic more for a squeeze play. WWE's has had some action before. I doubt it's going to be any good this time. I feel like we're looking at AMD, probably a little bit of Pinterest is a kind of a maybe. Virgin Galactic for sure because of the short potential. And then Starbucks, I don't want to write off some of the names like a Starbucks because of what I saw, things like Caterpillar or some of these bigger names on earnings, and you don't think they're movers, and then if they decide to go, they just keep flying and flying through. So it's a decent board, but it's going to be about the chip names. Everything's led by AMD. And Pinterest has been trying to break out for a while. That's the only reason I bring it up. The daily chart is like begging for a breakout.
They used to have a pretty high short float, I believe.
Not anymore.
But yeah, now it's like 3%. I was kind of expecting to pull up 20% or so on that short float. I guess they have covered on this move up on Pinterest.
Remember they had the potential deal that fell through and then never happened, and I still think they could be a takeout target, but that's not necessarily why you buy a stock. I think if you're playing for a company being potentially taken out, you should have you should kind of like just holding on to it as well at some of those levels, or you just play it through options. That way, if someone doesn't come in and see it as attractive within 6 months, then you have an easy out, right? It's an easier way to play it. So I'm going to punch out of a firm. It's 357 already. Cannot seem to hold on to that bid. I should have just gone long Upstart. If you're watching yellow, wow, really should have shorted that thing. That's now at 370.
What?
Yeah, 375. What goes up must come down. That is how it works with these names. We did warn you.
Sometimes the top is obvious too, like $5.
$5.
That's kind of an obvious spot for these things to stop at. Upstart, not really stopping. I mean, holding up above 72. Didn't expect that one. Microsoft and Apple are now decent sells, but I guess there's only 2 minutes left.
I love you guys in the chat. Pickle Morty. It's Pickle Rick, first of all, but that's fine. Pickle Morty, I'm ready to cheer or blame AMD earnings on Prad.
Yes.
That seems oddly cold. I just checked to see if Brad was still at his desk. That's cold. Are the Bogdanovs really dead? As far as I know, yes. I remember looking it up.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, I think they passed away years ago. We had that little joke that we have on the show, but they have passed away. Thank you guys so much. It's been a fun show. I don't know if Kat's going to get on the bell. We didn't get to that 1,000 likes. Maybe we can get that final push. I suppose nobody wants Max to trade when he's in Barcelona, because I did promise that you would trade in Barcelona and let us know how it goes. It's later on in August. If we get to 1,000 likes, take a second and do this.
Hola, like and subscribe today.
As we head into the close, AMD after the bell, Prad's going to have it live. It should be wild. You also get Virgin Galactic, a couple of other important names. Starbucks is another big one. You know you got to be looking out for those earnings plays. That's where the bread is buttered. That's where you get the SSR bounces. Look at Caterpillar today is the best example. You would never trade it on any other day. But if you traded Caterpillar today, well, if you were long, if you shorted Caterpillar, you got your butt kicked.
Yeah.
But I'm assuming you didn't have a reason to go short Caterpillar. It broke and it never stopped. You would only ever look for a play like that on earnings. I wish I was looking at this, but it was a small cap runner type of day, and I'm not going to complain about it one little bit. ANET was the other one, MFM. ANET was another runner, Caterpillar and ANET.
Oh, yeah.
That's why you look at that earnings board. That's why they're on your list to go over. That's why we're going to be back in the morning talking about all of those names, giving you the rundown. Even if we don't trade it, we're going to tell you what's happened and what to look for, at least through our eyes. As Cat is on the bell and the countdown is on this, it's Tuesday, right? In 5, 4, 3, 2, and ring it. Yeah, it is Tuesday. I almost forgot what day it was there because my wife and daughter are camping, and with my in-laws and her sisters, and usually I mark the days of the week by what I have to do that evening. So I don't actually have to take my daughter to soccer tonight because she's missing soccer to be camping, which is great. They're having a lot of fun. I'm getting FOMO for not being camping with them because I do enjoy it myself, but it does mean I get to get a great workout in tonight.
Nice.
You're not still in Nicola. No, you're not.
No.
Yeah,
I did get nervous there, but I've been out of Nicola for like 20 minutes, so.
Yeah, sometimes you hit
Yeah.
the refresh and you're out of it. It's fine. I just looked over. I'm like, he's not still in Nicola.
No.
Brendan, the low float runners were fantastic today, and it was a good day to trade. But how did the market actually end up here?
Chop continues here. Negative 0.31 for the S&P, negative 0.27 for the NASDAQ, guys. So back and forth we went all day long. Yeah, individual names. You got to really, really focus on those on days when this is the case, guys.
Anyway, so I don't think we get AMD just yet. Yes, it's a red market, but who cares? You had plenty of opportunities to get winning trades. They might not just always be in those big cap names. AMD is after the bell. I don't know exactly what time it is going to be. 4:15, Pratt just yelled out. So it's not going to be us that covers it. It is going to be on the after show with Pratt. He'll be all over that and Virgin Galactic and whatever else it might be. As always, you got us at 1,000 likes. You guys are the MVPs for sure. But once again, doing a great job filling in for Sean, who is absolutely chilling and hopefully having a lot of wine in Rome with his family. We hope he's enjoying the trip. You're doing an excellent job filling in. Obi, great job today, of course, as always, with the professor, Sharif, on the ones and twos. Both Fabian and Ramin absolutely crushing it. And Brendan making sure we stay informed because I'm not checking the news because we happen to have Brendan doing it for us. And a big shout out to Brankles, who never lets us, you don't see him because his head's not in, he sits right there. He never lets us miss a mover. He just yells it out. If the stock's breaking the high of the day, we know because of the Brankles indicator. So I want to thank him for yelling random crap out all day long to keep us informed. Without further ado, let's get you guys on over to the closing show, the after show with Pratt. Go get him.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another segment of Trader TV Live. This segment is brought to you by Day Trade the World, the greatest, the best prop firm out there. If you want to open one for yourselves or want to work